We know it killed the dinosaurs, but what of the crew of the SS Venture? I speak, of course, of the doomed cargo ship that brings the father Tyrannosaurus to San Diego at the end of The Lost World Jurassic Park, the second film in the Jurassic Park series. The ship comes hurtling into the docks and crashes violently. The characters go aboard and find most of the crew either dead or missing. A dead man clutches the controls for the cargo hold's doors, and when Ludlow suggests that they open them to check for survivors, the guard who wouldn't let Ian and Sarah in earlier promptly does so, unleashing a very angry Papa Rex upon San Diego. So what exactly happened? What killed the crew, and what was Daddy Rex doing in the hold? The movie apparently wants us to believe it was the T-Rex, although I've seen everything from stowaway raptors to pteranodons suggested, complete with claims that cutscenes or storyboards of something along these lines exist, although I've never seen any of these claims backed up with any actual evidence. But what there is evidence for is it definitely being Daddy Rex. Let's examine this evidence. One of the main arguments against its being the Rex is, how could he eat the crew if he was down in the hold? Unfortunately, this mistakenly assumes he was down there when the voyage first began, and I don't think he was. When we see him held captive back on Isla Sorna, he's in a harness contained in a metal frame. We see the same harness on the deck, bent out of shape when the characters first go aboard. After he leaves the waterfront complex and heads towards the city, there's a scene where Ian and Sarah talk to a guard. To hear him tell it, the dinosaur began going into a rest during the voyage. Apparently, this is because back on the island, Roland shot him with too much tranquilizer. Indeed, when Roland shoots him the first time, we see it initially doesn't do a thing, and so Roland begins loading a second dart. Clearly, never having tranquilized an animal as big as a T-Rex, Roland, in his understandable eagerness to get the dinosaur down ASAP, just kept shooting him until he dropped. And so during the trip, again according to the guard, Daddy Rex begins going into respiratory arrest. The Venture's crew, fearful of losing such a valuable animal, administered amphetamines, but like Roland, did not know the correct dosage and gave him too much. This much the guard explains to Ian and Sarah, and as Sarah comments, this turned the Tyrannosaurus into, quote, a locomotive, and what seems to have happened, based on this dialogue and what we see around the ship, is that Papa Rex went bonkers, broke free of his restraints, and went on a drug-fueled kill frenzy before finally being sealed down in the hold by the last surviving crew member, who subsequently dies of his injuries with his finger still on the button. The one inconsistency and the other argument used by people who don't think it was the T-Rex is the undamaged wheelhouse. We see the helmsman's severed hand clutching the wheel, but from what we can see, the structure is undamaged. You'd think, they argue, that if the dinosaur ate the helmsman and whoever else happened to be in there, he'd have done some damage to the wheelhouse's structure. And they're right, but I'm inclined to consider this an error on the filmmaker's part and not evidence that a dinosaur other than the T-Rex killed the crew. After all, one blooper doesn't mean we should discount everything else that we're shown and told. As for the persistent raptor theory, the movie never so much as suggests it, and if the only evidence for it is the undamaged wheelhouse, then it's a pretty weak theory with no real basis. Suggestions of storyboards and deleted scenes involving raptors crop up everywhere, but no one has yet produced any evidence in the form of script excerpts, cut footage, or any interviews or anecdotes from anyone who worked on the film, at least not that I've seen. So for the time being, I'll consider this particular theory wishful thinking on the part of viewers who just really, really like raptors. And that's fine. I love raptors too, but one inconsistency in the scene does not discount everything else suggesting the T-Rex. And until I see some actual evidence of these supposed storyboards and deleted scenes about raptors, I'm going to continue attributing the off-screen carnage aboard the Venture to Big Daddy Rex.